Hi, I'm Andreas from Autism Parenting Magazine, and today I'm speaking with Xavier DeGroat, an autism advocate who is working hard to better educate society on the needs of people on the autism spectrum. Xavier was diagnosed autistic himself at the age of 4, and he says he has experienced discrimination, economic and job setbacks, and educational difficulties throughout his life. He is now on a mission to help enable others on the spectrum and their families to reach their full potential. Xavier, welcome. I am
Thank you.
delighted to host you today.
I am wonderful. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. So, you're the founder and CEO of the Xavier DeGroat Foundation. Can you tell me a bit about the work of the foundation and what you've achieved since its inception?
I have throughout the Xavier DeGroat Autism Foundation has been very much persistent and good at networking with leaders across the world. And what I do is I speak with a lot of leaders to make social justice change for those with autism through government changing laws and raising awareness, creating seminars and programs for autism with police officers and firefighters. And we have recently have achieved a very phenomenal bill in Michigan that was signed by governor here, and it was to allow vehicle registration for people with communication impediment, such as those with autism or beyond, like or deaf or hard of hearing. And it has been very honored to have that signed by the governor, as it's now going to take effect on July 1st here in Michigan. So that way people diagnosed with autism can have their vehicle registration have a code in it so the police knows how to pull them over when they get pulled over or get arrested.
That's very, very interesting. So, part of your work is therefore educating parents about raising children with autism. I'd love to hear a bit more about your work in this area.
I have been very much eager to listen to what other parents have to say about their child with autism. Oftentimes, there's a misunderstanding about lawyer efforts, because I'm not a lawyer or no consultant or anything like that. So because I'm not licensed to practice law or give medical advice. But there are many times also a parent would ask me, can I get you to have me part of your autism foundation? I'd like to be a member so I can join your programs, or if I could help in any way organize, let me know. And I tell them that, hey, I'll invite you to any one of my events here I have in the future for autism awareness and advocacy. And they are pleasant and very honored to be part of that, as one of the greatest events we've ever had that brought awareness was the Michigan State University athletics event to raise awareness for autism with Coach Tom Izzo and Coach Mark D'Antonio, who was a former football coach at MSU. And now it has been very transformative for me to go on further with my events and programs. Now, sooner than later, I will be having a event here with the University of Michigan athletics, Coach Jim Harbaugh, and down the road we'll have an event with even Tim Tebow, the NFL star, who was very honored and supportive of my effort. And that is according to what I've heard from the mother of his, Tim Tebow's mother, after reading her book, The Ripple Effect by Pam Tebow. And they're very spiritual and Christians, something like that. But beyond that, though, we also have done a lot to go to schools and educate their teachers on how to treat people with autism when they're being educated, because they might have sensory overload, stimulation, anxiety, or they may suffer big time side problems with students being too near them or too sarcastic with nuance is around them, and they don't know how to cope with nuance skills. A lot of times when a student is teasing them or bullying them or joking around, they might not take that properly. A person on a spectrum often may not.
It's very interesting. And I love the fact that it incorporates so many popular figures. You're able to work with all those people, and that's actually very impressive. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And you also run programs to help teachers, as you mentioned teachers as well. So you basically help them effectively educate autistic students. How has that impact been so far in
It
engaging
has,
teachers?
yes, it has been very positive. It's been higher, more increasing with awareness throughout teachers, as now I think awareness is not enough. I think acceptance is the way to go. And I think by starting the awareness programs I have done with schools around my Michigan area, particularly, they have really developed more acceptance for autism. And there is still a lot of work to be done though. However, the special ed teachers in the Lansing area school district, which is where I live, have become very dedicated to support autism and accept it for what it is rather than them trying to label those with autism the way they wish to label them. And that is something we need to expand and go on further around the whole entire world with schools to make sure that teachers are very effective at educating those in the community with autism. One of the best quotes is Dr. Temple Grandin. It's never too late to educate someone on the autism spectrum, she said. And I think the same way. And she has become a mentor and friend of mine, and matter of fact. And I have been following her guidance and principles of strategy to help raise acceptance for autism around the whole globe. Sooner than later, I will be educating Pope Francis on autism by going to the Vatican and meeting with him, as Italy's Prime Minister's office of the Undersecretary of State has been very much interested in having me visit Italy to come and talk about autism and mental health issues that go on across Italy. And so eventually I hope to become a global ambassador for autism. And one of my biggest inspirational leaders in history that I liked was Billy Graham, the evangelist around the world. And also like your Mother Teresa and Muhammad Ali, they all have dedicated their life to humanitarian efforts and advocacy.
I mean, you've mentioned globally, and I feel from where I'm sitting, you've actually reached the global scale. I mean, how big is the global scale for you right now?
It is, I would say I am 60% there to reaching the 100% level of that I want to reach. I've already met the Dalai Lama, Stephen Hawking, and spoken with them about issues on autism and disability rights. And Stephen Hawking having a disability, he told me he was often labeled and told to not go chase after his dream to go around the world because of his health concerns, but he did not let that stop him from moving forward. And that's how I am too with my autism. I don't let anyone stop me from moving after my potential, as I have enormous kinetic energy and potential to be reached out there. Until it gets reached, will I stop and end with my relentless advocacy for autism? And that's how I work as a leader. And I was inspired by many other leaders to do the same thing.
That's brilliant. Honestly, I commend you. I feel I feel for me especially, I'm so inspired by everything that you're doing. So, and the more I hear about it, the more I actually want to know about how you've actually managed to build such a network of interconnected people.
Yes, I have managed to build this because I was labeled a lot in high school, called "You are retarded, Xavier." And excuse me for that word, but I don't like that word at all. And it made me very disciplined to chase after my own strength and disprove any of those negative doubters in me. And showing that they had done that to me, it made me more stimulated to go after higher profile destinies around the world to advocate for autism. And I think that will break the boundary. I figured after reading Mohandas Gandhi's nonviolence efforts book that he had the ability to do during England trying to be imperialistic, taking over the land of India. And I know that Gandhi had the courage to this nonviolently protest. And I think I want to do the same for autism. And how I do that sometimes is just by, even like I'm here right now at the Michigan State Capitol of the legislature, and I often just come here and just sit down and kind of daydream to kind of show people that I'm a quiet protester that is dedicated to advocating for autism and that will not give up. And someone out there, I'm sure, will one day meet with me or come close to me and make my aspirations go further in life with my perspiration and dreams in life. So due to the fact I was labeled a lot in school and bullied too and teased, that made me very discredited and discouraged a lot to feel like I have to go after my own ability rather than let my disability stop me.
That's brilliant. That's a very beautiful message. And many of our readers have concerns about how their children will transition into adulthood. So from moving from childhood into adulthood and being able to adapt to the world. What work do you do to help students on the spectrum develop life skills and become more independent?
I tell them that they need to go by what their interest is and fixation skills, maybe, such as botany, whether they like studying plants, or whether that is like, oh, I like bikes, I like mechanics. Then I tell them, hey, do you want to know about mechanics? Or let's say, hey, look at this cool wheel here. You know how a wheel works when it spins through the momentum of physics and science? Well, you might be interested in learning about that. It could be hard. It's going to take time, but don't stop yourself from trying and go after that mobility of yours rather than looking at your disability or let your parents overthink that you're too on the disabled side of the spectrum rather than you have much ability. Because at the end of the day, even according to Dr. Temple Grannon, their ability matters more than their disability to go after what they can be in charge of for their own destiny of this world and become a leader for their own independence economically and socially with their own justice. And I think that is a problem that many parents don't take, is that they have to stop looking so much at what their child can't do. Rather, they need to start looking more at what they can do. So that way they move forward with their ability and their strengths and their capability of aspirations and beyond.
That's a brilliant message. And just to change direction a bit, congratulations first of all on completing the internship at the White House. That's amazing. Can you tell me about your experience there and what the internship entailed?
The internship at the White House and becoming the first known public autistic White House intern has become very much confidence it built in me, into my heart from top to bottom, to manage my own life skills and go after even more higher dreams and protests for those with autism, like such as think of, I spoke with President Donald Trump here in the Oval Office here recently with Rudy Giuliani, the mayor of former New York City during 9/11. And Rudy Giuliani introduced me to Donald, telling, hey, Mr. President, I have Xavier here with me, who is a friend, and he has quite the amount of energy that he can give you to change the course of action for those with autism. And he met with me, Rudy did, at Ernie Els Center for Autism, the professional golfer from South Africa. And Ernie Els got me to know Rudy Giuliani. And so there is how I got my doors to be open for me here at the White House as the first autistic White House intern. And that was very pleasant for me because it got me to know more people in government, and it got me to learn how to cope with being on my own and learn how to even deal with handling challenges, especially with this COVID pandemic going on and with the election that was going on last fall between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump there. And so that kind of led me to think more highly about my own background and not let anything stop me from going after my dreams.
That's brilliant. And I'm sure you're an inspiration for many, I would say, whether it's children or adults on the spectrum, seeing how far you've reached so far. And like you said, there's still so much more for you to achieve. And that's a commendable effort to that. And you're brilliant, actually. And you were an instrumental part of getting new legislation signed into law. Can you tell us about this legislation and why it's important?
Yes. For one, it's important because it will keep people on a spectrum more protected and safe, to give them special services that they need with their accommodations or with their sensory overload. Like, you ever got in a cot next to you and you have adrenaline coming out of you and it makes you, I'm scared. And then a person with autism may not cope with that properly. They might take it literally and think that the police is about to get too close to them. And then the police, ironically, looks at that person, and that person on the spectrum happens to have a tantrum. A tantrum can take place often on those with the spectrum when they don't know how to cope with anxiety or with stress. And that's because they're always black and white most of the time about how they foresee what is going on. They don't like surprises. They don't like, people with autism often don't like that because they have trouble with dealing on stimulated issues. When a police comes after you, a person with autism gets intensely stimulated often with the lights and the sirens that go off that can be too bright or too loud, and that is a sensitivity that happens in a lot of those with autism. So the law now just is allowed people with autism, as they're diagnosed, to be sent to the Department of State across the state of Michigan to have their vehicle driver's license or their state ID or their license plates on their car to be decoded by police when they pull them over, to know and alert them when they have autism, so they know how to go after them and with sensory friendly interaction skills. And there's training that takes place with that for those with autism throughout the law enforcement industry here in Michigan. And now we're doing something nationally. We just got done yesterday, perhaps, by the way, with the TSA, Transportation Security Administration, under the Department of Homeland Security, has allowed people with autism, and now is committed to giving them special services when they go through screening at the airports. So that way a person with autism doesn't have intense anxiety to hurry up, I want to get past this, or they can't deal with the proximity and the skills of all of the people that are around them, because usually it's just like special education would do in school. Like, if it's too dense, a person with autism may need the time on their own. So at the airport with hundreds of people, it can be challenging for people with autism to have that way of coping with that. So when they go past the line, they can go right to their gate and sit by their parents and do their own thing, so they don't get freaked out or have a tantrum, an anxiety attack. And that can take place often with those with autism. So I told the TSA, and Congressman Dan Kildee of Michigan, by the way, helped get that done bipartisanly by writing a letter to the department and bureaucracy to change that course of law. And now we're under the umbrella of a lot of change coming, and we have more yet to do with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We would like to have a restraint order be changed for those with autism throughout the FBI. So that way, if there's ever a victim with autism that was part of a crime, or there was an issue and the FBI agent doesn't know how to interact properly, there could be a leading anxiety issue of misunderstandings that are frequent and taking place a lot with FBI versus those with autism.
Wow. And so, in creating this legislation, what was the biggest challenge that you faced in getting it signed? What would you say was one of your greatest challenges?
One of my greatest challenges was catching up on every day with people in the government, because, as you may know, government is always doing something big and busy, and it takes a lot of persistence. And sometimes I'd be so persistent to where people would like, chill out, Xavier, we will get this done for you. Well, I say to that is, people will say, if you want to chill out, then you need to understand that I have a busy schedule too. And I don't let myself down just because I'm no high profile elected official. I leave myself like on my own identity with strength and capability to do things at this level.
Wow, that's amazing. Honestly, I'm inspired. Thank you so much. And can you share any advice with us for autism parents who have only recently received an autism diagnosis for their children? What would you advise the parents in starting this journey?
Yes, any parents with those with autism, I would recommend that you really focus on what the person with autism in your family can do rather than what they can't do. And if there's any misconception or understanding of them, don't hesitate to take them to a doctor. Oftentimes parents are afraid, I don't want to take my child to a doctor. I'm nervous what they're going to say. Well, it's better you know than you don't know, because what if something comes up out of the blue one day and you're very shocked out, like epilepsy. Epilepsy is a big common thing that happens in a lot of those with autism because of their neurological symptoms. And I used to have epilepsy as a child, but I've outgrown it. And my doctor, neurologist here, had taken me off my prescription over like 9 years ago. So it's almost been a decade now since I've had my last seizure. But since then, I've been doing my own work and out and about, and I have not had one left. And he thinks a lot of it is because oxygen has increased in your body to hydrate your brain and make your brain more fluent and dependent on the blood of your transmission that you have going on with your blood around you. So that's one thing where parents would need to also look at, and plus have a parent understand that a person with autism is a human being just like anyone else. They're not any less or any worse. They're just different. And that's where you need to understand to accept them for who they are and find your own way of having time and fun with them and not overstressing yourself out about the high cost, because and honestly, truthfully, that can be an issue a lot. Cost is for people with autism when their parents don't have the kind of money to take care of them. I usually tell them that that's where you should probably start joining the advocacy movement to change the health system and make sure that health are available through healthcare for scannings of the brain and so forth. In Michigan, we have a child insurance law for autism that I know my friend, former Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, Brian Calley, had got into the law, and that would take effect here back about a few years back. And it's something that we can encourage other countries and states to do. But I also think we need to make sure that insurance covers also the expenses of therapy, of CAT scans, or anything to do with the brain or mental health. And a parent can always take their child to a therapist if they feel like they need help learning how to communicate or help learning how to go after their own potential. And there's never no one out there that cannot help. Like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was one of my inspirations, and Mr. Rogers would always say, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day to have a neighbor just like you. And I think about like, there's always someone out there, if you believe it to be true, that will help you out and manage the time to be a charitable humanitarian at giving you devotion.
That's brilliant. And just to sort of give parents an understanding or almost a framework of how you've basically grown up. So going from childhood to adulthood, where you are now, what support system did you have in terms of family, in terms of any intervention that you were taking to that developed you to becoming such an impactful person where you are today?
Yes, I became successful in life throughout my own self-dependence of making sure that my parents allowed me to do what I needed to do. And naturally, they offered me my own ability to go out and just take care of myself and manage my own life. It wasn't easy. It was challenging at the very beginning, and it created a lot of anxiety in me. But I would say as I done it and practiced what I got preached at by my family, it turned out that I would become successful as my own person. And technically, I still strive for a job, though, of employment to get paid. Look, all the great work I do, no one pays me to do all this great work neither. So that's even the bigger effect of how great of the work I'm doing. It tells you I have a lot of potential and a lot of ability and strength that not many people would even spend their time even trying to do. So since my parents let me go out and do my own things, and even told me to step away sometimes and go to library, for instance, that kind of opened up more of my objective mind to go after projecting for what I needed to get done.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And the reason why I asked this question was just for parents to sort of get an understanding of what it's like from someone who is autistic themselves to become such an impactful person, to create impact in the world today. And I think highlighting the fact that your parents, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned your parents were allowing you to be independent and allowing you to be your own person, and that helped you become who you are today. Am I right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. And finally, how can our readers find out more about your work or contact you for support and advice?
If you like to learn more about the Xavier DeGroat Autism Foundation, as I'm the CEO, Xavier DeGroat, you can visit my website, www.xavierdegroatfoundation.org. And feel free anytime to email the foundation. And you can email me personally at xavierdegroatfoundation.org. So if you have any questions, feel free. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Xavier. And it's been a pleasure talking with you today. And thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to collaborate with you again for Autism Parenting Magazine in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Andrew, take care.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right, bye.